LRBT2, method argument, question number 8. So we have Kim and Lee, and we're trying to figure out what exactly does Lee do when Kim explains. So, or when Key, never mind. Kim says in Northern Europe during the 18th century, a change of attitude occurred. So it sounds like that's a fact. That found expression in both the adoption of less solemn and elaborate death rites by the population at large. So there's a change in attitude. People are not so sad when it comes to death rites and they don't get so intricate. And in a more optimistic view of the human condition as articulated by the philosophers. So this attitude change causes people to do less depressing things when people die, I suppose, and people are more optimistic as to like the human condition. Makes a lot of sense because the human condition probably didn't seem that great if everyone's dying to bubonic plague or whatever. But we carry on. That's a gigantor fact. This change can be explained as the result of a dramatic increase in life expectancy that occurred in Northern Europe early in the 18th century. So this one is a pretty tricky main conclusion to find, but this change can be explained. Our author thinks that's plausible. So that's technically an evaluative statement. We could also get the sense of, oh, that first sentence is a bunch of facts. This one is an arguable fact at the end. That's our conclusion for Kim. So now we're going to wait and see what Lee thinks. Lee says, your explanation seems unlikely. Right there. That's Lee's claim. Kim thinks that this can be explained. It's a likely explanation, and Lee does not think so. But why? So it seems unlikely because it could not be correct unless the people of the time were aware that their life expectancy had increased. Okay. So Lee basically says, well, people don't know that they're living longer, so you're wrong, I think. He's like, I don't think that's very likely because people would need to know that they're living. And so now we're trying to think about like what in the answer choices reflects this. All this comes down to is breaking apart your argument real slowly and surely. A, it refers to sources of additional data. We don't do data. We're not doing data here, but what do we say about that data? That cannot be easily reconciled with the facts Kim cites. Well, Kim presented a lot of facts, and Lee is kind of lacking on those facts. He takes more of a theoretical approach to this argument. B, it offers an alternative explanation that is equally supported by the evidence Kim cites. Nah. Lee is doing that thing that I hate people do. They just kind of like, I don't like your answer. There is no alternative. You're just wrong because this. I'm like, okay, well, fix it, sir. Yeah, we don't have an alternative explanation here. C, it cites an analogous case. No, we don't. In which Kim's explanation clearly cannot hold. So if we were having an analogous case, Kim would say a lot more than one sentence. Kim would be saying, okay, well, if we look at this case, blah, 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 blah. This case is similar to what you're talking about in Northern Europe. But here's the like, it would be a lot like this would be the longest question ever to keep it short. D, it suggests that Kim's explanation depends on a questionable assumption. Assumption time. This is a little sneak peek. We'll get to assumptions later. This is exactly what's going on. Lee is saying, hey, it's unlikely because it would not be correct unless, and this is where we're getting into some territory of necessary and sufficient. So don't be too sad. That unless indicates a necessary assumption. Unless is a very big thing. It's like very, very restrictive. It's saying, okay, these things don't happen unless this requirement is met. So that unless is a necessary assumption. And in this answer choice, depends on also indicates necessity. Depends on, requires, unless that thing is required. We have certain requirements to meet. And when Lee says your explanation seems unlikely because it can't be correct unless this is part of your argument, he's pointing out that there is an unstated premise. And that's all assumptions are, unstated premises. So D is looking like a really nice answer. That all Lee is saying is like, hey, you forgot one of your explanations. You forgot one of your pieces of your argument. Your argument needs this in order to function. Let's go ahead and look at E. E, it points out that Kim's explanation is based on two hypotheses that contradict each other. Well, I only see one hypothesis. They're hoping that you take this idea that change of attitude caused two different things and you assume those things are examples of hypotheses, but they're not hypotheses. So we want to be really, really picky. Just because there's two things, it does not mean that it's the random word that we think they are. So D is going to be the best answer choice here for this question.